the idea to limit the exploration of nuclear weapon by Iran is not so important for us, or for example, development of nuclear weapon in North Korea or in Pakistan. So it is of no importance because we consider ourselves on the brink of the nuclear war with the West.
On the matter of the nuclear nonproliferation treaty, Article 6 very clearly states that the nuclear powers, that's Russia and America and China and the others, are obligated to seek and to negotiate in good faith a disarmament of nuclear weapons, certainly leading toward a reduction. And the rationale for that is that these nuclear weapons are not totally under the control of the respective countries. There's technology, there's software, there's human frailty. There is a real potential of error in the form, for example, of false alerts. And in a growingly hostile world, those dangers increase. So the question is, with America, Russia, and China building new nuclear weapon systems, replacing and modernizing what they have, everything's getting more dangerous. And the mutual emulation among all the powers is interacting in a way to create ever greater danger. So my question to both speakers, but primarily Professor Dugin, what is the view of Putin in terms of negotiating reductions in the existing stock of nuclear weapons? Because if there's no proliferation whatsoever, there still is a growing danger, which at some point will result in a nuclear exchange. And who knows how horrible that'll be. So is there any appetite in Russia or in the mind of Putin that you know of for serious nuclear reduction? And the same can be said about the United States, which is involved in a modernization program, and China, which is now in the process of building 1,000 more nuclear warheads. So where does Russia stand on Article 6 and the current issue of build more, build less?
That is not my preferred domain. So as long as I understand the situation, Russia fears today not precisely the threat or menace of the proliferation, but the behavior of United States of America. So Russia now is confronting with the possible nuclear conflict with the West. So in that sense, the danger of proliferation, for example, to give the nuclear weapon to Iran or to facilitate the studies and development of nuclear weapon in North Korea is in the eyes of Russia now is much less the threat than the threat of direct confrontation with the West on the nuclear level, or the threat of receiving of the nuclear weapon from the West, from NATO to Ukraine. So all the rest is a secondary. And that is why I think that, for example, the idea to limit the exploration of nuclear weapon by Iran is not so important for us, or, for example, development of nuclear weapon in North Korea or in Pakistan. So it is of no importance because we consider ourselves on the brink of the nuclear war with the West, and the balance or relations between nuclear heads of missiles between Russia and NATO counts much more than the proliferation. And in order to avoid or in order to counterbalance this threat, I think the Russia could in the radical situation to make some extravagant steps. And we could do that because comparing, for example, the danger of possession of nuclear weapon by Iranian regime or North Korea is much smaller than the real possibility of attack against Russia by a nuclear weapon from the West. So now we are in different situations. So what Mr. Mearsheimer has said about this trilateral agreement between China, West, and Russia in order to diminish or to control or to reduce or to stop proliferation, nuclear proliferation, that belongs to the different epoch, different time. So that was a kind of peaceful three great power world order, and now Russia considers itself to be under Western attack. We consider ourselves to be in the war with the nuclear West, and that is different. So that is very important. So if we could imagine return to this peaceful three-polar system, more or less understanding and balance of power with no direct military conflicts, maybe this idea to limit a proliferation of nuclear weapon would seem rational, but not now in our eyes. So I've tried to respond as I could.
I want to add one little point here, that forgetting about nuclear proliferation, however bad that is, the mere possession of thousands of nuclear warheads through many systems of software, hardware, and human control presents a risk of error, a risk of blunder in Russia and in the United States, and presumably in China as well. The danger is not that America is going to bomb Russia or Russia is going to bomb us. That may be a problem, but the risk of a mistake, of a blunder, we've had false alerts before. The risk every year is going up. It is inevitable that there will be a nuclear exchange, no matter what the intention of Trump, Putin. There's an immediate threat that requires serious negotiation under New START and under other arrangements to get greater control. Whatever our other disputes are, there's a danger of nuclear blunder happening, even though nobody wants that.
I think that there's no question that there is the problem you describe. I also think there's no question that there's the problem that Professor Dugin described. But the fact is, we are not heading towards a solution to either of those problems. If anything, we're going in exactly the opposite direction. The United States walked away from a number of arms control agreements over the past 2 decades. That's point number one. Number two, there is hardly any evidence that these three great powers are going to craft or put together a new set of arms control agreements. Number three, they're building up their nuclear arsenals as you described. And number four, nobody seems interested in trying to figure out a way to head in the other direction and ameliorate the threat of a nuclear war. If anything, what strikes me as I observe people in the West talk about nuclear war, it's that they don't think it's that serious a threat. I'm quite amazed, to be honest, that so many people think that the Russians would never use nuclear weapons, that we can simply push them around, do whatever we want to the Russians, and they'll never use nuclear weapons. This is not the way we thought in the Cold War. It doesn't seem to me that we've made progress on this front over time. If anything, we seem to be headed in the wrong direction. So when you add all those factors up, I'm actually very pessimistic about the likelihood that we will avoid nuclear use in the future. I'm not arguing that it's axiomatically going to happen, but it makes me very nervous when I listen to people talk about nuclear use in the West, and when I think about what's happening with the nuclear arsenals and what's happening with the elevation of all these crises around the world. I think we're in, serious trouble.
Arms control is dying. I can tell you, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists puts out a doomsday clock, and it is currently set at 90 seconds to doomsday, the closest in the last 50 years. There's a danger of miscalculation, of accident, totally independent of the antagonisms that have been described so well over the last hour. So I just caution people that even without intending, there will be inevitably a nuclear exchange. That's what I'm worried about.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.